All right, cons, is this thing perfect? No, sir, nothing is perfect. So what is the bad thing about partitioning? Updates that move rows from one partition to another are actually slow. So now, updating rows are no longer straightforward thing, guys. Think about it. In a huge table, if you update a row, you go to that row and just update it. End of story. But what happens if you update a row in a partition, and the act of updating that row moves the row from this partition to another partition? Let's say customer ID is a bad idea, but let's say grades. That's the example we gave, right? The grades, I moved the grade from partition was like partition 1, and I update the grade to 60. Now you just move the entire row from one partition to another, and that is slow. The act of update is now you're deleting and inserting into another table, and that could be very, very slow. So you do this so many times. If you're moving one partition to other, you can actually harm your SSD. You can because especially you're jumping from one partition to another, so that is the SSD pages. If you're doing this so many times, man, that could hurt, right? So avoid updates that move rows from one partition to another partition. That actually changes the definition of what partition is. Inefficient queries could accidentally scan all partitions. So yeah, if your queries actually include a where clause that knows that lets the database know which partition to hit, everything is rosy. However, if your query actually is inefficient, you will end up scanning all the partitions, and this might actually result in a slower performance than just having a single table, right? So let's say you say select star from this table where ID is greater than 1. you just basically selected everything, but instead of selecting one table, now you're selecting 7 or 5 tables based on how many partitions. So the database is jumping between one table and another, so that could be slow. So think about all that stuff, guys. Schema changes are challenging. DBMS usually manage that, usually, right? So like if you update an index on the master table or the partition table, all the partitioned child tables will get that index. We saw that, right, in the demo. However, sometimes this doesn't always work. The database actually has to support this feature. So that's the interesting part, guys.